The iron gates of St. Bartholomew's Workhouse groaned in the wind, as if the building itself dreaded another day within its own walls. The year was 1874, London's East End, a place where fog clung low and coal smoke smudged the sky. Inside, the corridors smelled of boiled cabbage and despair. Rows of narrow beds lined the dormitories, and in one dimly lit corner sat Thomas Wicks, a wiry 12-year-old with restless eyes and a scrap of paper hidden in his palm. Next to him was Clara Doveton, aged 11, hair like mousy straw, her face pale beneath a smudge of soot. The overseer, Mr. Hildebrand, stalked past in his long black coat, his boots clicking sharply. There was something reptilian in the way his eyes lingered, cold, appraising, as though he could measure a child's worth by weight alone. Keep your head down, thought Thomas, or you'll find yourself on the receiving end of his cane. But Clara, she don't see the danger like I do, always looking for trouble in corners best left dark. That night, the workhouse bell tolled midnight. Most slept through it, most, but not Thomas. A faint scraping echoed through the dormitory, like a chair being dragged. He crept from his cold, damp, rickety bed and saw Clara by the far wall, her fingers probing at a loose brick. "What are you doing?" he hissed. "I've found something," she whispered, pulling free a folded scrap. It was a fragment of ledger paper, ink smudged, the words barely legible. "Payment received. Removal of boy. No trace." They froze as footsteps echoed. The night watchman's lantern swept past, spilling a stripe of light over the page before they hid it away. If I can prove it, Clara thought, if I can just show someone, maybe they'll believe me about the children who've gone missing. Maybe they won't say I'm making stories again. 3 mornings later, St. Bartholomew's was abuzz. In the laundry yard, beneath a stack of damp linen, they found Ellen Marsh, a kitchen maid no older than 15. Her face was pale, her lips tinged blue. The doctor muttered, "Accidental drowning," though the washtub nearby held no water. Mr. Hildebrand barked at everyone to return to their duties. Yet whispers wove through the air, servants huddled in corners, laundry girls clutching at each other's aprons. Head laundress Mrs. Calloway was fond of young Ellen. Poor Ellen, she thought, always smiling, even when the soap burned her hands raw. Her hands covered her mouth trembling. But I told her to keep away from the overseer's office. She never listened. That evening, Clara slipped the ledger scrap to Thomas. Together, they crept toward the overseer's office. They knew the nightly rounds left it empty for 15 minutes. Inside, the air smelled of stale pipe smoke. Shelves sagged under neat rows of ledgers, each bound in cracked leather. Clara's eyes darted as she ran her finger along the spines, searching for one that matched the scrap. Thomas found it. Accounts and transfers. 1874. The pages listed payments from private benefactors, alongside notations, removal, reassignment, and occasionally ceased. Then, Ellen's name. Next to it, a date, the word ceased, and a sum of £10. £10, Thomas thought. That's what she was worth to them. Less than a new stove, less than a horse. The sound of the latch snapped them upright. Mr. Hildebrand stepped inside, his face smooth, but eyes glinting. "Well, well," he said softly. "What have we here? Rats in the grain store." Clara bolted for the door, but Hildebrand caught her by the collar. Thomas lunged, biting the man's wrist. Hildebrand cursed, releasing her. They tore through the hall, the overseer's boots pounding behind. They ducked into the infirmary, sliding beneath a row of sickbeds. Hildebrand's shadow loomed in the doorway. Then, silence. Moments later, they heard him say to the night watchman, "Find them, before morning, or there'll be 2 more entries in the ledger before dawn." It was Samuel Briggs, the oldest inmate at 64, who found them shivering behind the coal scuttles. Briggs was stooped, with eyes clouded by age but sharp enough to read fear. "You've stirred the nest," he rasped. "But I've seen the snake's head before. Years ago, at Clerkenwell Workhouse. Children sent away. Never seen again. Hildebrand was there too." He slipped them a brass key. "Old coal chute leads out to the alley. But you'll need proof if you want anyone to believe you. If I help them, maybe I can undo a sliver of what I failed to stop before," Briggs thought. "Maybe the ghosts will leave me be." Before they could act, another blow struck. At dawn, Hildebrand was found in his office, slumped over his desk, a teacup shattered at his feet, a thin red line across his throat. The doctor claimed it was suicide, but no razor was ever found. The workhouse fell into chaos. Officials swarmed, and the children huddled tightly together, unsure whether the monster's death meant safety or more danger. Clara's thoughts raced. "I should feel relieved, but all I feel is cold. If he's dead, someone else killed him, and whoever it was, they're still here." Thomas and Clara returned to the ledgers, moving cautiously now under the distraction of the investigation. In the overseer's desk, they found a sealed envelope, marked with an ornate crest belonging to Lord Ashcombe, a wealthy industrialist and benefactor of several workhouses. Inside, letters instructing Hildebrand to procure specific children for service in overseas colonies. Payment for Ellen, and for others, had gone directly to Ashcombe's personal accounts. A floorboard creaked. Mrs. Calloway stood in the doorway, holding a blood-stained razor. "I told Ellen to keep away," she said, voice trembling. "But she told me she'd run. I knew he'd stop her. I couldn't let him." Mrs. Calloway's thoughts raced, her gaze shifting left to right, up and down. It wasn't about justice. It was the only way to keep him from taking more. But Ashcombe will just send another. Briggs's key fit the lock on the coal chute. Thomas, Clara, and Mrs. Calloway slipped out into the foggy alley, their pockets heavy with ledger pages. Behind them, the workhouse bell tolled, a sound that once kept them in line, now spurring them on. Ahead lay the warren of East End streets, and the faint promise that someone, somewhere, might listen. Weeks later, a report appeared in a small radical newspaper. Allegations of child trafficking in London workhouse. No arrests followed. Ashcombe's name was omitted. Thomas and Clara found work in a dockside print shop, setting type for leaflets that spoke against workhouse cruelty. Mrs. Calloway vanished into the labyrinth of Whitechapel. Briggs died that winter, a faint smile on his lips. The shadow over St. Bartholomew's never truly lifted, but somewhere in the smoke and grime of London, two children kept the truth alive, line by printed line.